I'm the only one smiling, Piers. Do an investigation. Figure out what's classified and what's not. Joe Biden,
God.
we know that he had classified information next to his Corvette.
Are you 2 hours before it's about to happen?
4 hours ago. Holy shit.
On
Piers is milking this one.
foreign soil involving American armed sensitivity of it and the information in those chats. What is?
Well, hold up. Wait a second, Piers. You're not in charge of what's classified and what's not. There's an entire system for that.
Oh, Benny Johnson, another guy who was paid in the Tenet Media Russian propaganda scandal, by the way. Benny Johnson 1, Piers Morgan 0.
And
you said it wasn't classified information.
That system was literally on a live panel. Curiously, that system was on a live panel before the Senate. Secretary of the Secretary of Intelligence is going to be Tulsi Gabbard, right? DNI. She's going to be the one who states classification, and she said that there was no class.
Isn't it the DOD who decides who the original classification is here? And didn't Tulsi literally say that? Or am I misremembering?
Classified material in that chat.
So just to be clear, you don't think...
I don't know why it was so hard for me to come up with DNI. My apologies.
That's okay. You probably because you're in DNI denial.
There's another D. There's another D. You got me, Piers.
It's DNI for denial. Self-denial is what you're in, Benny.
Okay, let me put this to rest. If you think I'm going to sit here and state that it was somehow wise or smart for an individual to add Jeffrey Goldberg, somebody who's pushed and pumped.
You guys are so fucking lucky. The fixation that Jeffrey Goldberg was the one who was added, you should be grateful that it was him and not some foreign journalist or some foreign adversary, because this story could theoretically be a million times worse.
Every single Trump hoax, including but not limited to getting us
Russiagate.
into the Afghanistan, Iraq wars, hoaxes about the 51 Intel experts,
Jeffrey himself.
the suckers and losers hoax. If you think that I'm going to sit here and defend that and say that that was wise to do that, or that these conversations should have been had on Signal, I don't think they should have been, to be quite honest with you. I'm not going to defend that.
Okay,
right?
fair enough.
What I am going to do is say that there's people in. I don't think that was smart. It's like, in what universe would it be wise to add the guy who ran the suckers and losers hoax to your...
Nobody is saying that's the problem, but good pivot. See, he's got the Neuralink install as well.
Group chat for Trump.
Right,
It's
so in what universe... So
smart.
my response would be, and it would be a question you would
It's not
ask...
wise, right.
Well, yeah, but my response to that would be, and I'll bring in the other panel members very shortly, my response to that would be, if it was the other way round, and this was under the Biden administration, you wouldn't just be saying it was unwise or a mistake.
You mean...
You would say...
You mean the one who was senile?
Hang on.
You mean Hillary's emails?
You would say...
Senile, Hillary's emails?
Hang on
Senile,
a second. The National Security Advisor...
Well, if it happened, hypothetical, bring up, command, prompt, bring up Hillary's emails, Biden, senility. You mean Biden, who was senile? Here he goes. He got short-circuited for a second because he thought he had to instantly give the reply, but Piers isn't done yet. Hold on.
For the United States of America, added a journalist that hates Trump and the administration to a highly classified, probably illegal, because they're not supposed to do that on Signal, conversation about an imminent attack on foreign soil involving American military. You would demand
you keep saying it's illegal.
Hang on. Here's the question.
That's not up to you, pal.
Here's the question.
It's not up to you.
Here's my question. Here's my question for you. You would have said that National Security Advisor should be fired, wouldn't you?
Oh, well, hold on. So Mike Waltz has gone on TV and he's been in front of a ton of reporters saying that he doesn't know this guy and he doesn't have his contact information. He's never met him. And President Trump last night said that it was one of his staffers.
So the National Security...
Exactly.
To be clear...
I don't know.
Hang on.
Like, the story is not cut and dry.
Waltz himself said on Laura Ingraham it wasn't one of the staffers, it was him, right? So he added this person and then said, you know what may have happened?
Benny doesn't even know the facts of the story. This is also still stuff that cuts against you, though. Oh, so people in that Signal group might not even have been who they said they were? Like, that cuts against you even harder, by the way, but...
I just think the guy's name and number were the wrong way. It wasn't the right person to the right number. This guy's the National Security Advisor for the United States of America. He doesn't even know how to make his contacts list on his phone secure.
So
should he be fired?
Again,
yes or no? Before I bring the others in.
That's not up to me. man. That's up to President Trump, and he says
I also love this weird pivot. This is the Hassan pivot, right? Would you call the cop? I wouldn't call it. Or should somebody call the cops? Or should somebody be allowed to call the cops? I wouldn't do it. When somebody says, should this guy be fired? Nobody is asking you personally to pull the trigger. Obviously, you aren't the guy's boss. What the? It's such a weird, stupid fucking, like, do you think this guy should be executed for his crimes? I'm not going to fucking kill him. Do you think this guy should be arrested for beating his wife? I'm not going to arrest him.
All right, before I bring the others in.
that's not up to me, man. That's up to President Trump, and he says no. So
Okay.
President Trump says no. He's not my employee.
Okay.
Okay. And also, there's so much going. There's so many other things
All right,
going
I'm
on
gonna
here.
come to
There's
other
a
things.
technical glitch.
All right.
Because they're bringing in Elon Musk. To
I'm gonna
investigate
bring
it.
we're gonna bring
I don't
that
know,
stuff
man.
in.
I'm
We're gonna
sorry,
get
I've
to the
seen enough
Ds.
hoaxes, and the fact that they had a lawsuit ready to go,
Yeah.
like the day afterwards, and it leaked the day.
The day afterwards sounds like the opposite of ready to go. How long do you think it takes to put together a complaint? What do you mean? They had it ready to go the day afterwards?
Day before the Senate panel, and then that lawsuit gets given to Judge Boasberg. I don't know, man. How many coincidences do you believe in, Piers? Is this like some Christmas miracle
Wow.
for Democrats
So, hey,
that need
okay, so
one right
Brian-
now? I don't know.
American homeowners are at risk of a growing real estate scam, which the FBI calls house stealing. This is how it works. Criminals forge your signature on just one document, use a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee, and then file it with your local recorder's office. Just like that, your home title is transferred out of your name. Scammers can then take out loans using your equity as collateral or even sell the property behind your back. You won't even know it's happening until you start getting collection or foreclosure notices. When was the last time you checked your home title? I own a home
Been a while.
in the United States, and the answer for me is never until now. That's
Wow.
why I trust Home Title Lock. Their $1 million triple lock protection helps keep your home and equity safe. Here's what you get: immediate 24/7 monitoring of your property, urgent alerts if there are any changes, and if fraud does happen, their US-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix the fraud and restore your title at no additional cost. I've teamed up with Home Title Lock to give you a free title history report.
Awesome.
You can find out if you're already a victim and get access to your personal title expert, a $250 value just for signing up. Go to HometitleLock.com and use the promo code PEERS, or just click on the link in the description. Make sure you check out the $1 million triple lock protection details when you get there.
Will
That's
do.
HometitleLock.com.
Thank you.
Promo code PEERS, P-I-E-R-S, to get the protection and peace of mind that you deserve. Let me bring in Brian, because you've been waiting with unusual patience, Brian. So it's a massive conspiracy theory, and he was deliberately added to this group for some nefarious reason. Is the new theory from Mr. Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's all just, I mean, it's bullshit. Like Benny is just flailing because he can't
Benny doesn't even believe this.
accept reality right now, and he knows full well that if the tables were turned, he would be going on a scorched earth tirade about how all of these people should resign or
You would.
worse, be
You would, Benny, you
prosecuted
would.
or criminally. I mean, like, what are we even doing here? Are you that much of a partisan hack that you can't just acknowledge? The problem is this administration is so incapable of taking the L that they would rather just entrench and prolong these problems even more.
Which I
to the
think is a
point
really
where-
good, I think that's a good point, because Trump, that comes from Trump. Trump is on, Trump's told me, you
Right,
never
it's the Roy-
ever
it's the
admit
Roy
you
Cohn-
lose at anything. You just barrel
It's the
down.
Roy Cohn School of Yeah, it's the Roy Cohn School of Management.
Yeah.
It's that these guys they're so focused on ego, so focused on protecting their own asses, that instead of just being able to like take the L, which by the way, people would respect a hell of a lot more
I agree.
than Pete Hegseth coming out and saying, I did not discuss any war plans, only for Jeffrey Goldberg to release the very
Ooh, too many stutters and critical misspeaks. Sorry, Brian. You're out of here. No, I'm just kidding. I think we should start coding these things a little bit more maliciously and start viewing them all opportunistically and intentionally. I think that it is important for the Trump admin to fight on this issue, because if they can get away with this, they can get away with almost anything. They've been proving it over and over and over again. The lack of accountability, the pivoting, the shifting of blame, the just going through to the next media cycle and not having to take accountability for anything, I think it should be viewed more intentionally and more maliciously.
very next day a detailed account of exactly the war plans that he was releasing.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, I know Pete. I like Pete.
Even the Atlantic has changed their words
Yeah, but
and
hang on,
changed
hang
their
on,
story
look,
here.
let's
The
be
Atlantic
clear.
says, oh, now it's an attack. It's an attack plan. It's not a war plan.
Well, what
And
would
it's
you
not
call
exactly-
this?
they
What would you?
scrubbed- they
Okay, but what would you
scrubbed
call this?
classification.
Look,
All
one-
of this
Here,
hinges
Benny,
on
Benny,
what's
hang on, no,
classified
Benny,
and what's not.
I'm gonna bring Anna in here because
What's
she's not had a
classified and
chance to
what's
speak
not?
yet.
Piers, yeah, am I
Go
just
ahead,
here to look
Anna.
pretty? I'd like to
I'm
weigh
going to
in
come
on
to
this a
Anna.
little
I'm going to
bit.
read
Yeah.
you first of all.
Listen,
I'm going to read you one of the things that Pete Hexer says was not a war plan. Weather is favourable, just confirmed with CENTCOM. We are a go for mission launch, 2:15. Strike drones on target. This is when the first bombs will definitely drop. If that's not a bloody war plan, what is? What?
Okay. One of two things. Anna's either going to contribute in a kind of weak but supportive way to Brian, or she's about to tear us off in a totally different direction of who cares about this type of stuff right now? Biden was senile, Trump has made mistakes, all these guys are murderers, and all of these guys leak stuff, and we need to be talking about issues that are more important to the American people. Which way is she going to go? Let's see.
Tease.
I'm not going.
Anna.
I'm not gonna defend adding
No,
Jeffrey
Anna,
Goldberg to this chat. I'm not defending that. I'm not here to
I'm
defend
asking
that.
Anna.
But
I
you
think
did,
that's-
Benny.
I
The
think
first thing you
that
did
that
was engage
is-
in whataboutism.
True.
It's a war plan.
That's the first thing you did
True.
in an effort to provide cover for
True.
this obvious, massive, colossal mistake and error that was made by members of the Trump cabinet. Let's just keep it 100. Look, Brian is correct in calling out the hackery that is going on in the media right now. Depending on which party, the member of the media is supportive of, they're going to provide cover for bad behavior, but immediately change tune when it's a member of their own party or preferred party engaging in the same activity. Fact of the matter is,
That's good. Okay. We're muddying the waters a little bit. Just a little bit. That's good. Both sides will do it. That was kind of a both sider. Now, follow it up with a real big both sider, okay? The fact of the matter is she going to say, this was horrible and it was a colossal fuck up? No excuse. Somebody's head should roll for this. Or are we going to get big both sides energy? Let's see what we got.
When it's a member of their own party or preferred party engaging in the same activity. Fact of the matter is, what Hillary Clinton did with her email server was wrong. We condemned it at T1.
Yes! Oh, I cummed. I just cummed all over my computer. Yes! Yes, that's what I needed right now. I needed it. Yes.
IT, I continue to condemn it today. The massive error that was made by Trump administration officials, not just by the inclusion of Jeffrey Goldberg in that group text, but the fact that they were using Signal to communicate, which is not a secure way of communicating about classified.
Can we get Benny in here to say that Signal was preloaded on the phones, though? Can Benny come in here and clarify? It was preloaded on the phones, right? We need that talking point. That's very important to get out there.
Information, whatever plans they have, whatever strikes they intend to do in other countries, they should not be using the Signal app to be doing that. It is okay to call a spade, even if it's your own preferred party engaging in the bad behavior. But that's the problem, Piers. We have nothing but hacks in the media in America now, where you're so obsessed with your own precious little tribe that you put your entire country on the back burner because you don't care about the country. You care about whatever political figure you're doing propaganda for. It is pathetic. Okay, look at our economy right now. Consumer sentiment down the drain. Okay, Federal Reserve is not lowering interest rates further because of the fact that there's a lot of uncertainty in our economy that's going to negatively impact households. Inflation continues to be sticky. We have so many serious issues to deal with, and we're never going to come up with a damn solution because we have two sides that are covered by two, hack groups of media figures who provide cover for failed solutions to very real problems in this country. That's the real issue here. Okay, and I'm not interested in the whataboutism. I'm not interested in pretending as though Democrats are perfect or Republicans are perfect. What happened with Jeffrey Goldberg was a big deal. Okay, and if they just take responsibility for it, we'll all move on. But that's the other thing. No one ever takes responsibility. Ever.
I totally
Trump
agree.
said it was a mistake. Trump said it was a mistake. Trump said it was a mistake. I've said it was a mistake. Many people on the, many people in the chat.
What was a mistake? Somebody ask him, what was the mistake? He's playing a word game here. He's saying the mistake was adding Jeffrey to the call. That wasn't the mistake. The mistake was using this app, period.
here
Benny,
has
You
said
started
this.
off.
Benny.
You couldn't even bring
there's
You
no
yourself
started
to
off
defending-
with
not do what
Hillary
about
There's
it.
no
Clinton. What are you going to bring up
adding
from
Jeffrey
decades ago? You're going to
There it is. Yep, there it is. Nail him down. What is the mistake? The mistake is using Signal, period.
bring up other stuff.
There's no defending adding Jeffrey Goldberg. The entire argument that everyone on this panel is making, and I'm perfectly happy to fight all of you, is that they shared classified information. The administration says, no, you're not the arbiters of that. That would be what the entire case hinges on. That would be what all of the controversy hinges on. And so you're going to have to
Why didn't they just
specify
use
the
X?
classified information.
Why don't you just do it
Benny,
out in
Benny,
public? It's
Benny,
not
Benny,
classified.
we know that
Just
Joe
do it
Biden-
on
hang on,
X.
hang on.
Let's all
Classified-
read
we know
the
that Joe
exchange.
Biden-
Joe Biden, yes. Oh, cool. This is where Brian should go, Brian, because you're the only one I have faith in here. Brian should just go, oh, Joe Biden did do that. Didn't they appoint a special counsel to investigate that? Do you think they should do that for this case? Should we have a special counsel appointed for that investigation then?
It's happening in real time.
Okay,
It's not
Benny,
classified.
hang
Not
on.
classified.
Time
According
out,
to her
time
report,
out,
Joe
time
Biden-
out. As I
Joe Biden
said,
had classified
Benny,
information
Benny,
in his garage
Benny,
next to his Corvette.
Benny,
Hillary Clinton had
Benny,
classified information. That's what was
Benny,
determined
Benny, I get
by
it.
an investigation.
I just cannot think of anything that could be more highly classified than to actually be discussing war plans for an imminent attack on foreign soil involving American military. To me, it's indisputably highly classified. Otherwise, what else is?
Especially
Brian,
in front of a journalist that hates you. Especially in front of a journalist that hates you. I hope that they find the person that added Jeffrey Goldberg and then that they fire him.
it was Mike
Because
Wolf.
I just think
it was Mike Wolf. He's
I
admitted
can't
it.
imagine a stupider. I can't imagine a worse thing to do. I'm not going to defend that.
Okay.
Everyone knows that.
All right,
It's a mistake. That's a terrible mistake.
But we know who
period.
it was. I mean, Brian, let me bring in Brian. We know
Here's
from
who-
the
here's
we
who
know
it
from the
was.
screen grab.
This is-
It says added by Mike Waltz.
Mike
And by
Waltz
the way,
added
Mike
into the
Waltz
group.
clarified last night on Laura Ingraham it
Oh, he's trying to boomer meme.
wasn't a staffer. Brian, your final word on this, then we're going to change topic.
Look, again,
allow
I
it.
just want to dig into one misnomer that Benny is putting forward. This idea that it wasn't classified and so it's okay. This is some clever little trick that Republicans and Trump are trying to do.
Careful. It's not a clever little trick. It's fucking retarded, okay? It's not clever. It's retarded, okay?
Trump is the
Don't even say
ultimate
it. Don't even say
classification
that.
authority. So he thinks that if he can just come forward and say,
Wait,
well,
who is?
Trump is the ultimate classification authority. So
Well, maybe the ultimate, but I think here I'm pretty sure original would be the DOD, right? I think.
he thinks that if he can just come forward and say, well, I'm declassifying it, then that will absolve everybody in retrospect. But they know full well that this kind of material, when you are talking about an imminent attack prior to it happening, notwithstanding the fact that Jeffrey Goldberg was there, notwithstanding the fact that it's on an unsecured app, but of course, by nature, this stuff is classified. And again, if Benny didn't have his head so far up the Republican Party's ass, he would be able to recognize that if somebody with a D next to their name was doing the exact same thing.
True.
Well, to be fair to Benny,
I'm not really.
to be
not
fair to
really
Benny,
into
he
that,
said it
but-
was a big mistake. He said that there should be accountability. He's not tried to shirk away from that. He's simply
What's the
questioned
mistake? No, what's
whether
the mistake?
we are
What's
the
the
right
mistake?
arbiters for what is classified information. It's a reasonable point. Let's
Also, hold on. It's not a reasonable point, okay? Stuff does not have to be actively and affirmatively classified. That's not how classification works. It's not like every single document, every single piece of information that's being produced by all of these organizations, by all of our intelligence. There's a guy running around the office with the classification stamper, be like, oh, oh shit, oh, like some dude's walking the office like, oh fuck, hold on, I missed a thing, I didn't classify it. Like, it's default classified when it comes out of certain bodies, but just by default, it's considered classified information. Like, it's not like you have to affirmatively do it on every single thing that's produced.
But, you know, the question will be, will
But
there be a proper
we know full
investigation to
well.
get to the bottom of it? I think
We
it's
know full
indisputable.
well
but
that
Let me try.
yes,
let me try.
Donald Trump-
Let me try something. Piers, please let me respond to that. Yes.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. So, Brian,
What do you got?
You're not in charge of what's classified and what's not. Now, I'm perfectly happy to let all that play out. Let's figure. Fine. Do an investigation. Figure out what's classified and what's not. We know that Hillary Clinton had classified information on a private server and that she destroyed it. We
my
know
God.
that. That's confirmed.
You're not
by the
you're
people
not
who are
even
responsible for
capable
that.
of not
So
talking about Hillary
should-
Clinton, are
so
you?
should. Okay, fine.
Now remember, these same people, okay, and this is why I will talk about this forever. I don't give a fuck. These very same people who will talk about, oh, you want to bring up January 6th again? You want to bring, oh my God, you're going back to January 6th? Oh, my bad. We're going back to Hillary's fucking emails, bro? Seriously?
let's fast forward. Joe Biden, we know that he had classified information next to his Corvette.
Are you able to recognize the issue right in front of us instead of talking about previous Democratic presidents?
Answer me the question. Is it wrong? Is it wrong for Hillary and Joe to do it?
Is it wrong for them to be reckless with classified information? Absolutely.
Yeah,
See,
we go.
it's not that hard.
Okay.
It's not that hard to take accountability for when somebody fucks up on your own side.
Okay.
Should something have happened, they went through a whole process. There was, for Hillary Clinton, there was an FBI investigation that was reopened even. And for Joe Biden, there was literally a special counsel investigation. Yes. Also, funny that he brings up Biden, but he doesn't bring up, although it's just because it's not like he cares about him. I was gonna say, Pence also had classified information. However, but they all fucking hate Pence now because Pence isn't part of the cult anymore. What about Donald Trump's classified information at Mar-a-Lago? But that doesn't matter, you know.
Something have happened to them? Yeah, and I'm saying that it was. I'm saying that I'm
something
waiting
did
for the
happen to them. They were fully investigated by these respective things.
The people who are responsible for that are saying that this wasn't.
Well, something did happen to both of them.
Yes.
They both lost elections.
And Signal.
Well, hang on. They both
Signal
lost elections. They both lost elections to Donald Trump soon after they were embroiled in classified information issues. Anyway, let's change tack. Anna, let's talk about the first 3 months nearly of Trump's second term. It's been very Trumpian, very sort of chaotic on one level. Other people see method to the madness. I'm kind of one of them. I think there have been some clear wins. What's happened on the border is borderline, for want of a better phrase, miraculous. You know, the volume of people pouring over the southern border illegally has been stemmed almost to nothing, which is an incredible achievement. Would you agree with that before we go into other issues?
That's not true, but...
I don't always pick the healthiest food options, and I'm sure you don't either.
Okay.
We're all human and we're all busy. That's why doctors created Field of Greens. One delicious glass of Field of Greens is like nutritional armor for your body. Each fruit and vegetable in this drink was selected by a doctor for specific health benefit. There's a heart health group, lungs and kidney groups, metabolism. It's all very complicated, but not with Field of Greens because it's all in there. It gives me energy, but it also gives me the confidence that I can be traveling or, shock horror, enjoying a sneaky burger, and I'll still be getting all the nutrition my body needs daily. Only Field of Greens makes you the better health promise. Your doctor will notice your improved health,
okay,
or you'll get your money back.
Nice.
We've teamed up to give you a 20% discount on your first order.
Everybody asking me to skip this hates the health of DGG, by the way.
/Piers. That's code Piers at brickhousenutrition.com/.
You understand what the borderline he just said isn't true? They're lying about numbers and they're misquoting numbers to try to make it sound like the border crossings have dropped a significant amount. One, they're talking over a very small time period, 1 week. And two, what they're doing is they're taking the weekly average crossings per day, and then they're comparing that to 7 different days of crossings under Biden. So the weekly average crossings have dropped, but they're trying to say that they dropped 96% when it was more probably 55 or 60%, which is still significant. But again, it's over a 7-day period. These things ebb and flow as well. It's everything about it is a fucking lie.
Piers.
Well, I certainly think his actions, some of which, by the way, were massive mistakes, including the deportation of legal immigrants. But I think those actions and the rhetoric coming from the administration, of course, is going to discourage people from attempting to cross the border.
Would you accept his word?
Wait, how do I make this?
I mean, that has certainly worked, yes.
Right.
And look, what's mirrored by your comments is what you see in the polling. You know, the one area in which Trump continues to do quite well is the area in immigration. So I think the American people overall have been giving him pretty high grades on immigration, despite the fact, I personally have had a few issues with innocent people, including, again, American citizens getting rounded up in this mess. But my
Do you
my
object
point
to the principle
from previously still remains that, the Biden administration's failures on the border created a groundswell of support for Trump or Trumpian immigration policies. And I think Democrats need to take responsibility for that, to be quite frank. Because there wouldn't be that groundswell of support if it weren't for the mistakes made by the Biden administration.
I completely agree. I mean, Brian, it is inarguable, surely, that they have brought the southern border crisis, which is what it was, under control. This issue of what should be done with illegal immigrants who are criminals
Why can't I just
is,
direct
again, hugely popular with the American people to deport them. And my question would be, I'm not an American, but I have a home there. I've been coming to America for a long time. if I was to break the law as a non-American, I'd be straight on a plane out of there with my visa revoked, right? I mean, it's not difficult. Why should the same logic not apply to illegal immigrants who are criminals?
If they are criminals, then they should be. Look, I'm not here to defend somebody who's done something wrong, who wants the privilege of being in the country. If they've done something, if they've committed criminal activity, then of course I'm for that as well. My issue, which Anna alluded to, is the fact that folks who are not criminals are getting swept up because we've completely abdicated the whole concept of due process in all of this. And so I think that that's still important. I think that, look, it used to be a Republican refrain that we're a country of laws, and so we can't just suspend them when it's inconvenient for us to do so.
That's a good point, Benny, isn't it? I mean, you must be concerned about due process here too. You don't want to have a kind of anarchical setup where anyone can get thrown out without any due process, or do you?
Hold on, wait a second. What do you define as criminal?
Well, no, we know already there are some people. For example, there are some members of this so-called Venezuelan
laws that have been on the books.
Well, there are certain people
of years.
Well, the point I would make about say the Venezuelan gang,
ratified quite recently. When you enter the country illegally, you are a criminal by definition. That's why we call it illegal immigration. You've broken our laws by remaining here.
This is also always remember this game that they play. Always remember the game that they play with these fucking words, okay? We should deport anybody who's a criminal. Oh, okay. So like the violent offenders and the rapists and everything. Okay, gotcha. Why are you deporting all these people, though, that don't seem to have any criminal charges? Excuse me, they're illegal immigrants. Yeah, but like I thought we were going after the criminals. You fell for my trap card, because all illegal immigrants are criminals. Oh, fuck. You got me. Always be aware of this, that when... this is like the pro-Palestinian people from the river to the sea people who are like, I just hate Zionists. Okay, that's my issue. Okay, I just want to get rid of Zionists. All right, so who's a Zionist in your eyes? Every single person who supports the existence of Israel as a dominant Jewish state. Isn't that like 90% of Jews? And? Oh, okay, gotcha. Just we're on the same page. Okay. Scum fuck this guy is.
Here, without an official invitation doing this the proper way, you are a criminal. Therefore, all illegal aliens are criminals by definition.
There you go.
Deporting a criminal alien is the right thing to do by your definition, Brian.
There it is.
Because they're criminals.
Yep.
Yes?
Don't let them get away with that, Brian. Don't fall for that trap.
They broke
I
the
think
law.
on that point.
That's
So-
not what they're talking about. That's not how they sold this idea. That's not how they sold this idea. That is not how they sold this idea. Also, well, no, that's not irrelevant. But don't.
Benny, that I get what you're saying, that if you're in the country illegally, then the United States has the right to deport you. I understand where you're coming from on that. However, I would just ask to maybe consider the limited resources we have in regard to our response to this issue. So I would argue that it is more important to focus on criminal elements who are actually causing other crimes within the borders of the United States and are here illegally, because we don't have enough detention space. We don't have enough tax resources. We don't have enough judges to adjudicate whether or not the individual who's been accused of engaging in that criminal behavior actually did so. The courts still have a role in our system of checks and balances, and they do need to weigh in and adjudicate whether or not someone should be deported. That's an important part of due process. And I get that people are under the assumption that due process doesn't matter for people who are undocumented, but you would be mistaken in
also, remember. You have to even figure out if they're undocumented, okay? Because we don't know if they're undocumented. That's part of figuring that out, is part of your due process.
Taking that ideology on, because that ends up deteriorating the rights of American citizens. We must protect due process at any and all costs, because if we don't, it'll come back to us in a very negative way. But, you know, I support the Trump administration's efforts in deporting criminals who are engaging in violent crimes in the United States. But I do think it's also important to ensure we're implementing due process so we're not wrongly accusing people of doing things they have not done and then deporting them based on those accusations alone. Yeah. That's too much government power concentrated into one branch of our federal government.
I mean, Brian, there was at least one case reported this week of a so-called member of this vile Venezuelan gang where they're identified.
Trende Aragua, I think.
And there's one guy who's a sort of, who looks like the least likely member of a Venezuelan gang.
Those are the ones you got to look out for,
who's
though.
this sort of gay, quite artistic bloke who seems to have been rounded up.
Are asylum seekers waiting for court regarded as illegals? It doesn't matter. Republicans don't believe in asylum seekers. They don't even believe in it as a concept. So don't even waste your time trying to define that out. Just ask them point blank. Should people be allowed to come here to seek asylum? They'll say no. They'll be honest about it. They can be way more mask off now than they were before. So don't ever pretend like asylum seeking or anything like that was ever an actual concern for any of these subhuman degenerate fucks, okay?
It seems on the face of it to be a complete miscarriage of any kind of justice without any due process. It's those kind of stories which I think are concerning people about the due process.
100%. And it was all because he committed the crime of having a tattoo. I mean, the reality is that if we're in a situation where even one of these people was one single person who should not be there gets sent off, that is a massive fuck up yet again in an administration that's shown that it's perfectly willing to commit them over and over again.
True.
But look, this is what, so that none of us, so that Ana doesn't get rounded up, so that I don't get rounded up, so that Benny doesn't get rounded up. We cannot be in a situation.
Illegally?
That's not. Please, Brian. Oh, God, you have the lawyer guy and you have to destroy him on this argument. Please, God, somebody who's followed the legality of this. Oh, God, please, 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 please.
Are you illegal American?
The response to Benny's question when he says, are you illegal? The response to his question is, were the people that were deported illegal? Because nobody knows the answer to that question. The federal government doesn't even know the answer to that question. Or if they do, they haven't shared that answer with anybody.
Citizen?
Stop saying he's stupid. He's not stupid. He's evil, okay? Get it right.
Here illegally? Are you illegal American citizen?
We cannot be in a situation where we're just allowing people to get deported because they have tattoos on their arms. This is why due process
this is
important.
really important.
Oh, it's so fucking epic. Brian Taylor Cohen might be an illegal. He might be an illegal alien. Oh, he might be an illegal. He might be an illegal.
Piers, this is really because he just brought in something that is berserker mode. This is bizarre world. So are you asserting that the administration is deporting Americans?
Yeah, we don't know. That's the problem. Yes, that's the issue. Are you asserting that they're not? Please. Brian, you have that lawyer dude on your fucking show, okay? Please, eviscerate him, please.
Naturalized American citizens or native-born American citizens? Is that what you're asserting?
I'm asserting that they are deporting people who are not criminal aliens.
It was a mistake.
No, we don't know. That's what the whole fucking big court case has been fighting over the terror shit is about. That's okay. Fuck.
Are you? So you're saying that Ana is here, and Ana, I totally agree with your last point.
I don't know if Brian's going to be able to own this as hard as he should be. Are you saying that Ana could be deported? Yes. Yes, that's the entire point of how ridiculous the Alien Enemies Act is being used right now. Yes.
By the way, and I need to take an aside here. Ana's done incredible reporting on some of the horrific crimes that have been allowed to happen in this country. Some of them by criminal aliens, some of them by American citizens that don't get prosecuted. And so we cover that on my program. I just want to say thank you for doing that because it's an awful society. It's a zero trust society when you let criminals out of jail to do heinous crimes.
Elon Musk stroke DOGE. There's a lot to unpack here because they are finding a lot of evidence of waste. They are finding a lot of evidence of abuse and so on. But
did we just cut a whole fucking section? Fuck. We needed more of that, but okay.
They're also firing a lot of people, and Musk is now being...
The Alien Enemies Act only works in wartime, correct? That is correct. But the way that Trump is getting around that is he's saying that we are at war with the government of Venezuela and Trende Aragua, because there might be gang members in Trende Aragua that are part of the Venezuelan government. And because there are Trende Aragua gang members in the United States, that constitutes Venezuela declaring war in the United States or taking part in an active war-related invasion. Therefore, he can activate this Wartime Powers Act to deport anybody that he deems, with no judicial overview, to be part of the Venezuelan government or Trende Aragua. That's, yes, it's... That is the argument that the government has put forth in front of the courts. That is the chain of argumentation they're using to utilize this thing.
Targeted with companies like Tesla.
Remember also, see, this is why the conservatives crying about the Patriot Act and, government being too bad or whatever. None of those arguments matter. Conservatives have no principles whatsoever. Okay. Don't ever fall into the trap of thinking that. Okay. Wait, we're at war against Venezuela? Yes. Venezuela, according to the president of the United States, Venezuela is engaged in an active invasion of the United States via Tren de Aragua, which is why the Alien Enemy Act, the Aliens Enemy Act is being utilized to sweep up anybody that he says with no judicial overview is part of Tren de Aragua and then are being shipped up to El Salvador. I don't know.
There were people, who used to support him vociferously, now turning on him and burning Teslas and so on and so on. So I guess my two questions would be, is DOGE washing its face? Is it proving its point enough to justify it? And how long do you think Elon Musk is going to put up with the damage to his existing businesses if they carry on being as pretty devastating as they've been with Tesla? Do you think there's a chance he walks away from this?
I don't know if Elon Musk is even tempted to walk away from what he's doing. It seems like he gets a lot of enjoyment out of triggering people who are upset at the potential of losing certain entitlements that they have paid into their entire lives. The Social Security Administration is really suffering right now, and we're talking about the entitlement program that working Americans paid into their entire working lives, and now recipients of Social Security are unable to get a live person to talk to if they haven't received their Social Security check. 7,000 people were fired, and 10 field offices for the Social Security Administration were shut down as a result.
If Tren de Aragua is an arm of the Venezuelan government, that still changes nothing, right? Yeah, even if that was true, it wouldn't probably change anything. It's just it's a ridiculously absurd argument. All of it is ridiculously absurd.
Of DOGE's actions, and I see this as a roundabout way of dismantling an incredibly popular, wildly popular government program that Republican voters absolutely love without having to even pass a single piece of legislation.
True.
So this is the Trump administration's way of dismantling it without having to deal with Congress. This has been considered the third rail of politics because of how popular Social Security is.
We would have to be at war with Venezuela, right? According to the United States government, according to the executive branch, right now we are at war with Venezuela, yes. But the legal arguments are complicated and nobody actually understands any of this shit at the end of the day, so nobody really talks about it, I guess. But yes, in order for because this is a wartime power. It's a wartime power. The Alien Enemies Act is meant to be invoked. You can go read the statute. It's meant to be invoked only when the United States is at war with somebody, with another state, or being invaded by another state.
If they either privatize it, shut it down, or essentially take away these entire...
Can the president unilaterally declare that we are at war? Who the fuck knows? I didn't think so, but, the way that they're getting around that is they're saying it's not about them having to declare that we're at war, because there's another way to get around it too, and that's if somebody's actively invading you, right? So let's say China started to invade California, and this is fair, the way that the act is written, not the way it's being invoked, but let's say China starts invading California. Should the president have to wait for Congress to do an official declaration of war before he can activate wartime powers? Probably not. So the Alien Enemies Act specifies that if you're being actively invaded by a country, the president can also sign it and invoke it and bring it into action. So no, I don't think there needs to be a formal declaration of war. It could be somebody who's invading you actively, which is what he's claiming Tren de Aragua and is doing at the behest of the Venezuelan government.
Social Security is, if they either privatize it, shut it down, or essentially take away these entitlement benefits from Americans who paid into the system, there will be hell to pay for the Republican Party, not just the Trump administration, likely for decades to come. They're really playing with fire on that issue. We'll see what happens. But the final thing I'll say is I condemn anyone who engages in any violence, including burning, firebombing Teslas, attacking people simply because they drive Teslas.
Cringe.
People who do that are absolute scum, and they're counterproductive to the peaceful protesters who have been, protesting outside of Tesla dealerships or whatever. They have every right to do that. And those people are not the same as the scummy individuals who are causing real violent acts and damage to, these dealerships.
Okay, before I come to you, Brian, Benny, on Elon Musk, you know, he's doing this for nothing. He doesn't need to do it. He clearly enjoys it. He's sort of reveling in it to a degree. But purely from a optics point of view, if you were him, are you going to keep at this or are you going to walk?
Oh, I get. Oh, this is why people chuck some of these. It's because this is too much, huh? Gotcha.
Well, I don't know Elon Musk, but you are pretty clear in what you can see is his thinking, because he says it every single day on X. He sort of lays out why he's doing this. He sees this as saving the American economy, which of course he is intricately connected to, and companies would not exist without. And so he views the righting of the ship and the solving of waste, fraud, and abuse as saving the future of American economy. You cannot run a household $37 trillion in debt. You cannot run a business $37 trillion in debt. You could not run your own pocketbook if you were going down to the 7-Eleven to get.
Bro, it's just so dumb. They compare business finances and personal finances, like with fucking whatever.
Zin, you wouldn't be able to buy that if you were $37 trillion in debt. None of it works if you don't solve the fraud, waste, and abuse. And so that's what Elon Musk is doing. And I think it makes a ton of business sense, actually.
But when Anna talks about her concern about what happens to the
Does this have to be
Republicans
connected
if
to
they come
your-
after Social Security, which is hugely popular, as she said, with Republicans, are you concerned about that?
Well, as far as I know, the only people who've been taken off of Social Security are the 300-year-olds who've been
Which is not, hasn't happened. Oh, none of this has happened. Yes, no, hole. I don't know what yes, no, hole means. So this has to be connected to, oh, I see, okay.
getting Social Security. So the only people
Not a single one of those has been shown yet, but
who've been getting Social Security since the 1700s.
Okay.
you know what
Brian.
there are reports of, though, are people who are alive or current beneficiaries of Social Security who do need it, who are being taken off, who are authentic, like people who are on Social Security. But dead people being removed, not a single example of that has been demonstrated yet. But, you know.
No, Benny. They,
I mean,
they
is there a-
fired 7,000 people. So now people are unable to get in contact with anyone at the Social Security Administration if they haven't received the Social Security check that they're entitled to. We're talking about our nation's elderly, okay?
Or
It is
survivors
so
who are
important
entitled
that we
to
protect
benefits.
these people. And again, they paid into the system and now they're being screwed over. It's just wrong.
You know,
It
there is a theme.
unethical and it's
There
immoral.
is a theme, Brian, I would say, developing here about this administration. It's very fast, it's very furious, it's very big thinking, it's very bold.
Goodbye.
But if you look at all these things, whether it's DOGE, you know, whether it's the border and people slipping through the net, there are people slipping through the net all over the place, perhaps because of the speed that they're moving. You know, did what happened with the Signal thing? Was that because they're all just moving too fast and trying to be and not really giving enough time to really think things through? That would be my observation. If I was talking to Trump now, I'd be saying, you know, maybe just slow the horses down a little bit to make sure that as you roll out these very, very big things, you're not letting Americans who don't deserve it slip through the net, either being deported wrongly, losing Social Security wrongly, being fired wrongly, etc.
Well, look, I would say the easy analysis of this is to say that they're incompetent. And I do think that they're incompetent to a
But they're
degree. But I also
evil.
think that in large
True.
part, this
It's
is what
intentional.
Elon Musk
It's
is
intentional.
incompetent, is he?
It's
I mean,
intentional.
let's be clear. He's one of the most brilliant minds in America.
Which brings
Okay,
Which brings
well,
me to
then
my
fine.
second point.
Yeah,
is
then he's
in
evil.
large part, this is what they
It's
want to
intentional.
do. I mean,
Yep.
they'll trot out their talking points, and Benny brought out one of these things that, you know, they're looking to just get the debt under control. They're adding money to the deficit, which is going to explode the debt even further. And so like this notion that we're just getting
Where
our
is that
spending
going?
under control, they needed to try to cut.
Wait, where did that thing just go that I just launched? What the fuck? Spawn? I don't remember the fuck I spawned. There's no way to see this on the map? It will land in a random spot if you don't have a hub. Okay, good one.
A little bit so that they can, including Medicaid and food stamps, $880 billion in energy and commerce, which will cut Medicaid, $230 billion in the Agriculture Committee, which will cut food stamps to try and offset just a fraction of what they're going to add by virtue of $4.5 trillion for a tax cut that's overwhelmingly going to favor millionaires and billionaires. So we can say that they're incompetent for some of the egregious things that they're doing, but in large part, they're doing exactly what they want to do.
Yep.
They're not focused on the debt. They're not focused on trying to help people or make sure that they have adequate health care or grow, add jobs or whatever it is. They are doing what they need to do for the people that they're looking to help. And that is overwhelmingly people who are exactly like Elon Musk.
Yep.
And by the way, Piers, I would take issue with how you framed Elon, because he's not doing this as some benevolent, patriotic figure.
Well, he's not being
He was
paid.
under investigation.
What do you mean
was
he's not
under
being paid?
investigation
How much money
by
did he make on
nearly
election?
every
Now he's lost it all so far because his administration is incompetent as fuck. But what do you mean he's not being paid? He's not being compensated in any way? You don't consider the unbelievable amount of access that he has to government? How many where they tried to up that $500,000 Tesla contract to a $500 million one couldn't have been a potential favor. The fact that how many investigations now into his companies have now been closed because of the shuttering of some of these agencies or some of these individual investigations. What do you mean he hasn't been paid? He hasn't been compensated at all?
Single agency that he and Donald Trump have gutted, whether through gutting the agency itself or firing the inspectors general, Department of Labor, NLRB, USAID, CFPB, EPA, and so this isn't some indication of like benevolence by this patriotic figure.
But hang on,
He is helping himself. He's deriving,
helping himself. Huge benefit.
Being investigated or even sued. That's perfectly reasonable, normal business practice. It's whether those investigations or lawsuits lead to anything being actively overturned or then being punished for it.
Well, but now the investigations have been killed.
Look, I will accept the ruling of judges on these things if we get challenged, but I'm not going to be blasted off my mission statement I made as a candidate. Many people would say, and I think there's merit to this. Trump
But they're
is
literally
doing exactly
not.
what he said he
They're literally not accepting the rulings. What are you talking? They're appealing these things like crazy. What do you mean they would accept it?
do. And you might quibble whether they're going to reduce the debt or not. You can't tell after 10 weeks whether an administration can reduce the debt.
Just look at the direction they're headed. They haven't talked about a single thing that's going to reduce the debt.
You can after 2 years, and if they haven't reduced the debt after 2 years,
we can look at what they're doing.
Then they're going to get a shellacking in the midterms and
True.
probably get a
And they will.
shellacking in the next general election.
And
but
true,
I do
they
think
will.
trying to assess whether what they're doing at the moment can reduce the debt is a bit preposterous
Oh
after
my God.
only 10 weeks.
Well, it's not preposterous if you have the CBO score that shows exactly how much is going to be added to the debt. And so again, if you're passing it, I mean, it's just math, right? If you're cutting,
Let's talk about how they're trying to cut spending. DOGE, which hasn't found a single thing so far in waste, fraud, and abuse. They're trying to make small cuts to these programs, a lot of which are being challenged because they have the authority to do so. Okay, so who knows how much money we're going to save there? Not much. Probably on the order of maybe billions. Probably hundreds of millions, but maybe in the single-digit billions, right? Now, what are they doing in terms of spending? Well, we have, I don't know. They keep going back and forth. Are we going to increase? Well, they asked for more money for the DOD in the continuing resolution. Was that $8 billion that they asked for to increase the funding on? We have tax cuts that are going to be overall, what is it? Is it $4.5 trillion projected over the next 10 years for impact to the budget? We've got tariffs that are going to reduce the size of the economy. Reduction in the size of the economy reduces how much money is spent, reduces the amount of sales tax collected, and reduces the amount of income tax collected. Let's see, we've got... what other thing? I mean, we have massive spending proposal increases, and then we've got income reductions. The only thing that can possibly save us is if DOGE manages to find fucking $500 billion in waste, fraud, and abuse, which is not going to. So why do we have to wait 2 years to see what happens? It's like jumping off the side of a building and saying we have to wait until we hit the ground to find out what's going to happen.
Programs that don't amount to as much as you're adding by virtue of these tax cuts, then you are going to add to the deficit,
Yeah.
and that's going to balloon the debt.
Yep.
Which is to say nothing, by the way, of the amount of federal revenues that are shrinking by virtue of the fact
Shrinking
that
the economy.
is
Yes.
doing poorly
Good
right
job.
now.
Yep.
Well, it is, except
And it's
I would
projected to
say,
do worse.
Benny, if I'm Donald Trump, that his own approval rating
argument.
has never been higher as a president.
No.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
never...
Wait, is that true? I thought his approval rating had just been decreasing over time since election. Trump approval rating over time. Who's the best tracker for this right now? 2021. The fuck is this bullshit? You're generally... Oh, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. There is no federal sales tax. Just kidding. Holy fucking advertisement taking up half my fucking screen. You don't have just a nice chart for me? Okay, we'll read. Trump's net approval rating ticked up 2 points in an Economist Issue survey conducted March 22 to 25th compared to the group's previous poll taken earlier this month with 48%. 600 adults surveyed saying they approve of the president's job performance compared to 46 who disapprove. I don't know if this is up or down from his... when he was elected initially. Real clear polling. Where's our election day? January. Is this like... Is it supposed to go like off screen like this? I can't tell. Whatever. Okay. This is RCP does aggregates, right? Of different polls. So our disapproval is I think higher than it was on elections. I don't know where this... Well, that's from February. Max. Jesus. Okay, it's been climbing steadily. That's what I thought. What is the... I don't know where this idea is that he hasn't been polling... Or that he's polling higher than he hasn't. Okay, whatever.
By the way, of the amount of federal revenues that...
I would say, Benny, if I'm Donald Trump, that his own approval rating has never been higher as a president.
No.
I mean, it's never been higher. So,
the Democrat Party's approval rating has never been lower.
The Democrats are at record lows, right? So Americans do not want to hear a word from the Democrats. They're done with them.
Yeah, Nate Silver's got the same. Donald Trump's disapproval has just been climbing since he's been in office. I have no idea what either of these two guys are talking about, but okay.
They're done with the woke stuff, and they're actually pretty broadly supportive of Trump, which is, you know, I mean, if you're Trump, you're probably saying, I hear all the squealing. I don't care. I've got a mandate. I won everything in the election, and I'm going to deliver exactly what I said I'd do. And it might take him a bit of time, but, you know, I'm a little bit more patient about this. I think I do see methods of the madness. I do see the border being sorted. I do see an attack on government waste as being very popular with the American people, and so on. So I just think it's too early to say this is all not going to work. Demonstrably, some of it is working and is popular with the public.
Here we go. The tracker right here, $130 billion in savings. That's...
Oh my God. He's such an unbelievable fucking shill, dude. Bringing up the fucking DOGE website, kill me.
$1,000 in savings per American household. Right there. That's what Brian says is adding to our deficit, which is...
Is that the same tracker
talk.
where they noted that $8 billion were cut when it was actually $8 million were cut? That the same tracker that they started taking credit for cuts that were made during the Biden administration? Just wanted.
And the same tracker where they're saying money saved was like future contracts that they said they're just not going to engage in that one?
Check if it's the same exact tracker that we're talking about here.
Brian's stance here is that we should raise taxes. And I want him to carry that
My
forward.
stance is that we should raise taxes. All I'm pointing out is that the tracker...
higher taxes. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Brian, I want you to run for DNC chair. Okay, maybe you could take Harry Siston's job, all right, as the #1 DNC influencer, since he's getting canceled right now. You could take Harry's job. You could work with David Hogg, and you can run on higher taxes for American. And you can say that $37 trillion in debt is okie dokie to me. That's what you can do. And you can burn a Tesla dealership down while you're at it.
If you think
Great,
debt
bring
is
that message to the
bad,
American people. I want you to do it.
If you think
I
debt is
want you to
bad,
do it. How do I make it happen?
If you think debt is bad, how do you answer for the fact that we are adding debt as that based on the CBO score, we're adding debt, and your deity, Donald Trump, added $7.8 trillion to the debt during his first term? Where are these fiscally conservative Republicans?
True. Where are they?
Yeah, I don't want anyone to add anything to the debt. The vast majority of that came during COVID. We all know what
He was adding debt before COVID. He was adding debt way before COVID. The big majority of this, a huge chunk of this was from the fucking tax cuts. Also, how do I get... The fuck is this? Do these rockets launch back and forth for free? They land for free. Okay.
bizarro time that was, and I don't think that that anyone's trying to defend that. Donald Trump has proven time and time again he wants to cut government spending and cut efficiency, cut government spending, add efficiency, and cut our deficit. The deficit is a killer. You
But he's never
cannot
done
run
that.
a household
But
or a
he's
business
literally-
when you are in
he's
debt.
literally
When you're
never done
spending
that.
$4, you take in $1, you spend $4. That's what the country is doing right
Benny,
now.
he's never done
You
it.
can't.
He's never done it.
He hasn't done it. Yeah, and most of this deficit adding came from non-COVID spending anyway. Like it's...
Bro, he
saying
just
that
got
he
back
wants
into
to do
office.
things that he's never done.
It's like amazing. He's been in
He had
office
4
for 2
years in
months.
office.
He had 4
He
years in
didn't have-
office.
Yeah, but hang on,
Every
Brian.
single
Brian.
Well, hold on.
Brian,
hold
he
on.
didn't
Every
have
single
4
the
years.
highest
He had 3
revenues,
years and a
the highest
pandemic.
revenues.
And in the 3 years, he massively increased the deficit, more than he did even under COVID.
It would have
4
been
years in the
interesting what
pandemic,
would
but
have
the
happened
highest
if-
revenues
if it-
During-
without the
during the
highest
pandemic,
revenues, the federal government
without the pandemic, Trump's economic record in the first term would have been a lot better.
Lie. Brian, that's a lie. Donald Trump has never been fiscally conservative. Bring up the budget. He increased the deficits from Obama. He increased more deficits. Obama's deficits were lower than Trump's was in the first 3 years. It's a lie. It's a lie. Lie.
I've always said Trump would have won
Well,
that
yeah,
election.
and without
No.
without 9/11,
exactly
George
true.
W. Bush's.
Dude, you shouldn't even give that. You shouldn't even give on that point.
So
It would've been peaceful.
events knock off your agenda very quickly if you're not careful. Anna, I want to bring you in on another
Wait, is there no way to request more than 500 iron ore at a time? Is that how this works? Or
part of all this. Again, the D's, deportations, but a slight variant, which is student deportations. We've seen this big row, obviously, recently about the Columbia University student who was alleged to be pro-Hamas. It seems to be a bit of a foggy picture as to whether he was or not. But this principle of deporting
Right.
students for their political allegiances or views, where do you sit on that? Bernie Sanders says this is not democracy. You can't exile political dissidents, not in the United States.
Well, I mean, our government will certainly try to do that as long as the government of Israel demands it. And our government, whether you're talking about Democrats,
set a filter to drop at the station instead of a request from the landing pad. I don't know how to set a drop on the station. Do I have to do this shit here? Like, I don't even know how the fuck I set request at 0 from the station. This is to import? Set to 0. Are these all going to go here? Or are these just going to start dropping randomly on my fucking planet? Oh. Are they going here because I have this set to 0, or just because I have it set anywhere at all? Why are you sending iron? I don't know, because I don't need it in space. I'll use it down here, no?
Democrats or Republicans, is completely controlled by the Israeli government, and they're going to do the Israeli government's bidding. That's what this is really about. That's all it is.
Space science.
So protesters who are legal residents, permanent residents who have green cards, will be deported simply for exercising their freedom of speech and criticizing how the Israeli government is prosecuting this war in Gaza, slaughtering tens of thousands of innocent women, children, elderly people, civilians. They're going to continue the slaughter. They don't want any backlash
Oh, you can only have one landing pad per planet. Oh, that makes more sense. Okay.
from anyone in the United States about it, including American citizens, including permanent residents. And remember, Miriam Adelson and the Adelson family overall gave Donald Trump hundreds of millions of dollars to not do what's right for the United States, but to do what's right for Israel. So Donald Trump is going to do that. He's transactional. Money talks for him, and he doesn't care. He'll go ahead and revoke green cards and deport valedictorians, students who have been in this country since they were 7 years old, were valedictorians in high school, but God forbid they ever ding or criticize the Israeli government, because that's when they'll become a target.
What if they actively support? What if they actively support Hamas?
What does support mean?
Look, I despise Hamas, and it disgusts me that anyone would say anything positive about Hamas. But our freedom of speech indicates that we are allowed to even be supportive of the KKK, be supportive of Nazis, be supportive of terrorist
But that
groups.
applies to American naturalized citizens. If you've come in on a green card, right? If you say on your green card you support a organization that is a prescribed terror group in the United States, you don't get your green card. That is the argument Marco Rubio made. I thought it was quite a good one. I mean, I haven't got a green card, but I have a visa.
It's not a good one because when you're applying to come to this country, you have no rights. You're literally a foreigner, right? You don't have any rights. Yeah, once you're in this country and once you're subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, then you're granted rights. If you've been granted a visa, then theoretically there are things you can do once you're here that you wouldn't be allowed to do to qualify to come here. But that's because you now enjoy more protections and freedoms being in the United States, being a member, whether it's through a lawful permanent residency, whether through some kinds of visas, or whether it's because you're a naturalized citizen or a born here citizen.
And they're very stringent about all these kind of things, right? If you aligned yourself with a terror group,
you know that.
If you aligned yourself with a terror group, you wouldn't get in. So why should you stay in?
Well,
is my point.
visa and a green card is hold on, Piers, hold on. Visa and green card is different, as you know.
Course, yeah.
Someone who's a permanent legal resident is, it's like one tiny step lower than a naturalized citizen. And the point is, whatever allegation the Trump administration is making against these green card holders, it needs to be adjudicated by a judge. Again, it goes back to the issue of due process. If you guys are comfortable with an executive branch official, simply one person unilaterally deciding without any due process that someone has done something wrong and now their green card should be revoked, I think that's setting a really, really bad and dangerous precedent. Again, that concentrates too much power among a very small group of people, and I think people deserve due process. Have a judge weigh in and determine whether or not this person is actually a threat to the United States or our national security, and then make that decision. But Benny, for some reason, they don't want to do that.
All right, Benny, Trump has banned the AP from the White House, refusing to rename the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. He's kicking out student protesters.
It's fucking epic. Oh, it's fucking epic. Oh.
For having views he doesn't like. He wants CNN to be banned from the airwaves and so on. A lot of people saying, hang on, aren't you supposed to be Mr. Free Speech, Mr. President? Aren't you and Elon Musk the standard bearers of free speech? What happened to free speech? Is it only free speech when you like what you're hearing?
I love the way that you ask these questions, Piers. You're like my schizophrenic aunt. It's like Thanksgiving dinner after a box of wine. Because in 1 second, you're like, Anna, this scum should have been deported as a member of Hamas. This scum said that they needed to be out. And he said the end of Western civilization is what they're here for, which, in fact, they did. And then in the same question, you're like, Trump's just deporting students because he doesn't like what they say. You can't have it both ways, Piers. Is this guy a supporter of a terrorist group
as somebody asking the questions, I can ask you all difficult questions phrased in different ways. The one thing you just said that really offended me, I would never drink wine out of a box, ever, ever.
Well, that's how we know Piers didn't go to Piers,
that
you must
for
not have
me,
gone to college in America.
no, I did not. That for me crosses a massive red line. I'm a bottle man. Anyway, but Benny,
Is he just going to get out of that question? Or remember, don't forget this, okay? Remember when, I think Pisco might have even attacked me when I gave this opinion. Was this a 6-year-old opinion where I said, we were talking about theoretically, could you justify doing violent action against federal agents if they were trying to deport you if you were a DACA kid? Crazy that we've like actually hit that part in reality, and the conservatives are defending it. Remember, the conservatives will defend anything. If Donald Trump tomorrow authorized the FBI to torture, rape, and murder children in the United States, people like Benny Johnson would be laughing along at how much they deserved it and how awesome and epic it is that Trump is having the FBI agents dress up as clowns before they rape them. They will defend anything. There is no line. In fact, this should be the number one question. The first question that should be asked on any fucking show with any of these conservatives real quick is, hey, just curious, what's too far for you? Because none of them will answer that question, because nothing is too far for any of these disgusting fucking people. None of them will ever draw a line in the sand for this is too far.
Brian and Benny are going to team up and gang up on Piers? Do we have
Benny, I think
the most
the one
ambitious
thing you'll
crossover
ever
event
get
in American history?
The one thing you'll get buy-in from me on is that I will defend Franzia wine till my dying day.
Then you're going to lose me immediately. But Benny, back to slightly less serious matters, free speech.
Respect.
But on this issue of free speech, has the Trump administration been consistent? We might find this student, Mahmoud Khalil's views loathsome. There's no apparent, so far, hard evidence he has been pro-Hamas, and he disputes that. If it turns out he's not been actively pro-Hamas and we can't find actual words coming out of his mouth to show that, is it right that a green card holder in America should be thrown out of the country?
Let's see if we get an honest answer out of him.
Is it right that a green card holder in America should be thrown out of the country?
Listen, I'm not an expert on this case.
The classic. I don't know. I don't know anything about it. I really don't know fuck all about this shit. Sorry. I don't know anything about that. I'm not a fucking immigration lawyer. What was it earlier? I'm not a top secret classification lawyer. I'm not a fucking I don't know any of this shit. So base. You're not supposed to be a lawyer. This is your fucking job, is to talk about the fucking news. What the fuck do you cover all day? These are some of the most important court cases probably in U.S. history that are happening right now. We've had the invocation of the Alien Enemies Act that was it's been invoked, 4 times in U.S. history? The last time 80 years ago? World War II? You don't know anything about this? You're just fucking clueless? What is your fucking job? Don't you have a whole network behind you? Somebody couldn't have prepped you? Like, what are you covering all day?
I'm not a green card expert either. So I'm just going to go very quickly to the simple example of you're a guest here, all right? And if you go to another country, and Americans go and travel abroad to tons of countries, every country on earth right now has an American traveling abroad. If that American decided to support a terrorist faction or behave in a way that was criminal and illegal, right, which is what was happening when you were barricading and burning down and harming students and threatening students, then expect to be kicked out of that country. It's pretty logical, right?
The problem is you would expect that, but if we were talking about like Russia or North Korea or China, right? The question would be, well, hold on, did this person even fucking do it? And unfortunately, now we have to ask that in the United States. Did the person even do what they're being accused of? Because there's no due process. That's the problem. But whatever.
I don't think that free speech has anything to do with it. And as you stated, free speech applies to American citizens, either native born or naturalized. That the Constitution applies to us, not to guests here. So it's the same thing as the criminal alien argument.
All right.
You don't get the same rights if you are a guest here, especially if you came here illegally, right?
Although, funny enough, I did discover when Alex Jones tried to have me deported for my views on gun control, I did discover that First Amendment rights apply
to people that are
me,
even
though
on
I'm
a
not
visa.
citizen,
Crazy.
if I'm in America.
Correct.
And so
Crazy,
Barack
that's
Obama
true.
saved me for the gleeful American nation by saying I was entitled under my First Amendment rights, even though I'm not a citizen, to be critical of the Second Amendment.
Wow, some
And so I was
first-hand
allowed to
experience.
stay.
Nice.
So actually, on that, you're wrong.
I thought you were allowed to stay.
I did get exactly the same
allowed to
right
stay.
to free
Make a
speech
joke.
that you did in
Let
your
him make his
country.
joke. Let him make a stupid
and I
joke.
was very grateful, by the way. Brian.
Oh, he got cut off.
I thought you were allowed to stay.
correct.
You played the
I mean,
pigeon
the-
lady
the
in Home Alone
reality is-
2, and it's a classic.
Benny's wrong. The Supreme Court has ruled that guests here are entitled to rights under our Constitution while they're here as well. And look, the truth is that if we are, if we are
rights under the
actually
Constitution
abiding
doesn't
by
mean,
this
like,
idea,
attacking students, right, and like attacking universities and barricades.
Attacking students and attacking university. What are you talking about? Every time they skirt around this and they don't like give it concrete behavior and they kind of dance around, like attacking students. No, you're not allowed to do that. By the way, I don't know if you're aware of this, but citizens aren't allowed to do that. So why the fuck are you giving that as standard behavior? If you're a visa holder, you know you're not allowed to rape people in the United States, right? Yeah. Ordinary citizens aren't allowed to rape people in the United States. The two behaviors you decided, barricading places and attacking students, nobody's allowed to do that. Why are you even giving these as examples?
Yourself.
I mean,
that's not a right under the Constitution.
physically
I'm saying that
evidence
the guy.
these
physically
particular
attacking or
students did
verbally.
that.
I'm saying it's bad behavior if you're a guest in a country. That's all I'm saying.
What do you mean? It's bad behavior. Anybody in this country, you fucking retard. What do you mean? Nobody can do that. You're not allowed to do that. You guys know that, right? Nobody's allowed to attack people in this country.
You know, I am a massive free speech proponent. I'm not going to sit here and say, you should be kicked out because of your speech. I'm talking about
But you kind of
a
are.
series of criminal
are.
Yeah,
behavior.
you kind of are,
I'm talking
Ben.
about
You kind of are,
You
Ben.
a series of.
You really are,
You're
Ben.
saying
Hold
if you're
on,
a
series
guest
of-
in the United States
and I
and you say
started
something
off-
we don't
I didn't want to
like,
get
we're
caught
going to
in
throw
this
you
trap,
out.
man. I didn't want to get caught in this because I do not know.
I don't know. Oh, the I don't know defense. It's so strong, dude. It's so powerful. Lawyers use it. Doctors use it. Media pundits use it. This is their literal fucking job. Such a great strategy. I love it.
I will tell you straight out. There's a lot of people that are experts in the what's his name,
Mahmoud Khalil.
or what? Okay, so there's a lot of people that are experts in everything he's ever done. I'm not one of them. All right. So and there's a lot of So I'm not
Then
one
why
of
not shut the fuck up and just let him just say you have no idea?
them. So I'm not really going to argue like for or against this guy. To be honest with you.
No, but you're saying if a guest behaves badly, you
I'm
should
saying
be
in
allowed
generalities-
you should
in
be allowed to throw
generalities,
them out. And as Brian rightly points
These
out,
riots-
you are kind of saying
these
if you
riots at
don't
the
like what he
schools-
says, you can kick him out.
The riots at the schools were criminal. The barricading of the schools, the
Well, that's
threatening of
different.
students, the threatening of teachers.
That's different.
Oh, we're talking about criminal actions? Okay, well, then show me the indictment. Show me the charging document. Show me where he's been. Where was his arraignment? Like,
Smashing of the doors, like this is criminal behavior.
If you break the
and
law,
if you're a guest here,
if you break the
Yeah.
law, no, well, hang
That's
on. If you're
what
a
I'm
guest,
saying.
if you're a guest in America and you break the law, absolutely that's grounds for deportation. There is no evidence that Mahmoud Khalil has broken the law, which is a pretty significant part of this.
Yeah,
He's just been
that whole
targeted,
due process
and Marco
thing.
Rubio hasn't even tried to use that argument. All he said is, if he had said on his green card application that he supported Hamas, he wouldn't have been allowed in. But then it comes to, is there
that's
any
fair.
actual evidence he has openly supported Hamas? There doesn't so far seem to be any. Brian.
that's for investigators, man. I'm not the expert on this guy.
coward.
I think you
judges.
put it perfectly. The reality is that you cannot both claim that you are a free speech absolutist while claiming that if somebody says something that doesn't comport with your political ideology, that they should just be kicked out of the country. This is the hypocrisy being put on full display. There's really no other way to cut it. Even if you are diametrically opposed to what he advocates for, if you are in favor of our First Amendment, if you are a free speech absolutist, there's one way to show it. And what this
I don't like that. I don't know why Brian keeps saying that. You don't have to be a free speech absolutist. You just have to believe in the bare fundamental, the most minor parts of freedom of speech in the United States. There's nothing about this is about free speech absolutism. Like, oh my God, protesting for an enemy of the United States, protesting for things that are super antithetical to U.S. foreign policy interests. Like, wow, that's radical, absolute free speech. No, that's basic freedom of speech in the United States. What are we talking about?
administration is doing is showing that they're not. They only want people who are going to echo or mirror political ideology that comports with their own views.
Okay, I want to end by asking all of you to sum up Trump's first 10 or so weeks back in the White House with
Fucking
3
epic.
words. So
Fucking
Benny, I'll start with you.
super
3
duper epic.
words to summarize it.
Super duper epic. Wait, can I guess them? I don't even think I can. 3 words. I don't even know. Freedom, epic, integrity. I have no idea. I have no fucking clue.
Here we go. You
Decisive,
ready?
strong.
I've been thinking about this for a while. All right.
Okay.
So glad you asked. Deport Piers Morgan.
Well, Alex Jones tried. He failed. It was deemed that I was too essential to the well-being of Americans and had to be kept. No, but to be serious, how would you summarize it? Give me 3 words to summarize how you think Trump has done so far.
So fucking epic, dude.
Golden era energy.
Okay. Anna?
So fucking epic.
I'm so tired.
Has she even been? I feel like she said like 2 things this whole show.
That's the way to describe it.
It is exhausting. I mean, for anyone in the media business, it is relentless and exhausting. It's great for business. We can all pretend it isn't, but it is fantastic for business. If we had Kamala Harris running the United States, I wouldn't have a show by now. So it is incredibly good for everyone in our game, but my God, it is exhausting. Brian, 3 words.
You would have been deported under Kamala.
I would. Brian.
Ready, fire, aim.
Ready, fire, aim. What do you mean by that?
I mean that he's not thinking through what he's doing. He would rather just fire before he actually aims, and we're seeing things get broken as a result.
Okay. It's going to be really, I think it's going to be fascinating to see where this all looks in like a year's time. I do detect methods of the madness. I might be completely deluded, but we shall see. But either way, a great panel. Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Piers.
You get deported for hating on boxes of wine from Kamala.
You know what? I would actually have you. I would have your citizenship.
That's a personal issue.
I would throw you out of the United States for drinking wine out of a box. Personally, I would. I would view that as an egregious abuse of your citizenship, and I would have you thrown out. You certainly wouldn't get into United Kingdom if we caught you drinking wine out of a box.
Absolutely.
Certainly, if it's American wine.
Absolutely epic.
Not trying to get into the UK. You guys got your own
If
problems.
you come to this country, mate, you better have a bottle of something French and red and expensive. Then I'll talk to you. Then I'll let you in. Guys, thank you all very much. Piers Morgan Uncensored is proudly independent. The only boss around here is me.
Damn.
If you enjoy our show, we ask for only one simple thing. Hit subscribe on YouTube and follow Piers Morgan Uncensored on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And in return, we will continue our mission to inform, irritate, and entertain. And we'll do it all for free. Independent, uncensored media has never been more critical, and we couldn't do it without you.
Freaking epic.